All right, everybody, welcome back. This is part 2 of your Terrestrial Conference Old Man Draft Review. We've got the oldest geezers in the server here. We've got big-time Draft League veterans here ready to break down these teams and give you the top-tier analysis. Maybe. What do you think? What do we got going on, guys? Good stuff in this call?
We'll certainly give you some analysis. It's up to all of you to decide whether it's top tier.
See, the second division is always a little bit spicier because we got two drinks in us now, right? It's a little.
I've been sucking them down.
We're letting a little loose right here.
This is video 1.
All right.
And we're starting on the second.
Boom. And what a team we've got to start off. We've got Ray, a former 2-time champ. Jordan, take it away. Does this team have the goods?
I can't wait to talk Pokemon with all of you. It's been a joy every season. The one thing we can guarantee is we all are very old. But we have a lot of opinions about Pokemon as well. This team is really exciting, and it's got major strengths, and you have to try not to look at the weaknesses, and you have to try to trust the coach to build around them. Because the team, let's not assume that every team has to be everything. What is this team doing? It has great numbers, offense, defense, and speed if you reverse it. Don't pay attention to games outside of Trick Room. We are trying to bulk out, and we're trying to not pay attention to speed. Don't look at the speed, it's fine. Unless we have Trick Room, this team is trying to use everything except fight the fundamentals of the faster team usually wins. This team has strong redirection, it has strong bulk, it has grassy terrain, it has EV-Elite, Trick Room setters. It has some really amazing things. I think we know that this bug weakness is unacceptable if, let's say, for example, we didn't respect Alolan Sandslash. This fighting weakness is a little bit unacceptable, but we're gonna bring 6 Mons, and we're gonna be unpredictable. Ray is a champion of the league. I trust that he's gonna find the way to get people to not see his weak points and get people to look at this Arbolive sweeping you in Trick Room. This team's got a lot of upside, so it could be top tier if we're able to play around the weaknesses.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking at the rest of the conference coming up, and there's not a ton of... I agree, the bug weakness is, unacceptable. It's crazy, but also there's, Rabambi. He has to worry about that 1 week. Rabstka, I guess, but that's the same week.
Megahorn, coverage Megahorn.
Yeah, it's going to be coverage Megahorns and stuff, right? Which is fine.
Terrabug. Or just Terrabug, Terrablast, because it's neutral into everything. That's not Sandslash.
Yeah, true. I do so for a team that's very clearly trying to, dial in on Trick Room as the primary way to win games. I like the fast Mons that Ray chose, right? Electivire is can just show up, doesn't really need to be super fast. Yeah, it can survive on just an assault vest and some investment into attack and HP, something like that, right? It's got good coverage to kind of get in there and figure out what the 2 coverage slots are going to be every week. The Girafarig as another Trick Room setter, right? Maybe and that is Ghost immune as well, right? As another, on that fast end. I don't know when Sandslash is ever really going to be going fast in the snow. I feel like it's just a steel type with 2 4X weaknesses on this team. But yeah, then we're into the 50 speed Mons, and we're basically not talking about fast Pokemon anymore. But I did delete the 2 1-pointers.
Yeah, what were those 2? Wasn't Frogadier in there?
Frogadier and Grovyle.
Yeah. I think it's fair to look at the team as the 9. The 3 Trick Room setters, it's really great to draft Trick Room setters that don't share weaknesses, which is largely the case for these 3. So we definitely can get up Trick Room. We're hoping to bulk out without it, though. I think that the benefit you get from these slow mons is, in general, their offensive defensive numbers are probably among the best in the league of this team. So we need to play around those tricky turns where Regieleki lives the close combat because it's a giant hero.
I think where I'm struggling a little bit with this team is that, like, you have Electivire, which is this, it has amazing redirection, and I don't know what you want to set up next to it other than just, like, clicking Trick Room.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it really is just Trick Room.
Which is great. Like, obviously with
curse,
this team, it's...
screens. You got plenty of moves you can click here.
Yeah,
Donphan probably Swords Dances, right? Oh, no, it doesn't.
It's just
Curse,
like...
whatever.
Yeah, your Swords Dance mons are Sand Slash and then one-pointers.
Do we have
Giraffe
to set up with redirection? Can't we just, like, click a Choice Bandit or Life Orb?
Yeah.
You can. I mean, sure. I guess setting up Trick Room is good enough for this team, but I'm not sure. I don't know. It concerns me a little bit because I don't know how consistently you're going to be able to get up Trick Room, especially with no Fake Out.
We're hoping that we live. No, you're zeroing in on the weak point, and I'm thinking that this team will be able to live. Terra is a very important resource, and the different Trick Room setters coming each week is going to be key. If not for this amazing trio of Trick Room setters and the Electivire, then this team wouldn't be as great as I'm thinking it will be. But it's a very valid concern.
I just feel there's like types missing here that you like really want on a draft team, and I know that's kind of expected in a low tier format. Like, you're not gonna see a lot of teams with a good fairy type, but like we don't have a real fire or water type at all.
Fires are also tough.
Yeah, fires are tough, and
there's lots of water types. There could have been a water type on this team. You're totally right.
And like, there's no dragon. And like there's no fighting. Like, there's like types that you normally end up with, and I feel like this team is just like oddly lacking them. Like, it's just like a weird type situation, which I think is going to result in some problems with like covering certain things. Like, I was kind of joking when I said like just Terra Bug, but like, what's punishing Terra Bug here besides Regieleki? Like, there's no fire type, there's no flying type. I don't know.
Your own Terra Poison. And Donphan being every color of the rainbow. It's got Ice Spinner and Play Rough and shit. No, it's definitely a very real limitation, and I appreciate you bringing it to my attention more. Yeah, hopefully Ray can see their way around it. I'm going to be optimistic about it. What do you guys think?
You've got a good take on this, Jordan. I think this team's going to win some weeks just because his numbers are bigger than yours, and he's going to outdamage you, and if he outspeeds you under Trick Room, they're going to be winning the game a lot of the time. But there are some very big flaws here that I think are going to be tough to play around for Ray, but possible.
The last thing I want to mention a little bit is that this team has no dark resist. And when you have Reuniclus and when you have Girafarig as two of your 3 Trick Room setters, I think that matters a good bit. And I know you have Spiritomb, who can also be a Trick Room setter. But if you're really reliant on setting up Trick Room, and Reuniclus is your best Pokemon, like, I think it matters that you have nothing that can resist Dark. You can only take it neutrally unless you Terra.
This seems like a team that'll really struggle against a Prison Trick Room as well.
I think there are some trades that this team can do that can help a lot. Like, I feel like Girafarig is redundant. You already have both types. You already have 2 Trick Room setters in Reuniclus and Spiritomb, both of which I think are better than Girafarig. So I don't really know what Girafarig does that the other 2, like, that isn't already covered on this team. It's only 3 points, so like it's not really netting you that much, but I feel like Blissey you probably don't need most weeks. It's a great special wall, but like I feel like the rest of this team doesn't really need the special support. I feel like they can just offensively kill things once Trick Room goes up with Electivire anyway. So I don't know. I feel like there's a few things you can trade out on this team that you can get and like fill some of the type holes for, like, maybe not a fire type, but like a fighting type. Access to close combat is always nice to have. So I don't know. I feel like there's some mons you can grab by dumping some on here and making some transactions that could have a heavy impact, week dependent, like matchup dependent. So
yeah, I think we've kind of hit the nail on the head here. I think this is a team capable of getting some wins from a great coach, that definitely has its flaws. Where do we think it stacks up, tier-wise?
I think it's like fine to good overall. Like
Mid to high B tier, like somewhere in the
Yeah,
middle
like
of B
weeks-
tier. I think it's a good team. It's just it has clear weaknesses. So
yeah, weeks where the plan is viable, I think it's going to do well. And weeks where the plan is not viable, I think Ray's probably going to get run over.
I'm gonna put it high C tier. I'm less optimistic.
I have it at the bottom of B.
Okay. We're gonna fight. I believe in you, Ray.
All right. Next up, we've got Ursa, ring that bell. Little pun there in the team name. But there's no Ursaring on this team. There's a big, scary Hydrapple. Purple, tell us all about
First pick.
the Hydrapple
overall.
Yeah.
team.
So I believe that this team was doing the same challenge as LS and Electric, where they were all picking the same point Pokemon at the same time. So some suboptimal picks were made at some point down the road because they were choosing Pokemon in a certain point tier. So that's important to mention. But I mean, I love the Hydrapple pick to start out. It's a great 20-point Pokemon. It's one of, if not the best Pokemon on the board, I think, just like stats wise and like what it does. And it has a really great Trick Room setter and Slowking. So this those two alone, I think, make a great slow mode. You have some Fake Out with Berserker, and Weavile. Weavile also is a very strong Dark and Ice type, which is valuable. Flygon, you have it's just a good Pokemon, I think, in this format. It gives Tailwind, and it also a pretty good speed Tailwind for this format, while also having ground moves next to a Levitate Pokemon in Mismagius. Yeah, I think it doesn't have a ton of Eviolite overlap either. I think Girder can use it, but it could also potentially run Flame Orb. The only redundancy I see in this team is like Grumpig. I don't love Grumpig with Slowking Galar already being on the team personally. But overall, I think it's got like a decent enough fast mode with a Flygon Tailwind and then like Weavile to do damage and Mismagius as an option, and some of the other mid-speed Pokemon that are lower tier or lower point Pokemon. And then it has quite a formidable Trick Room mode with just Slowking and Hydrapple.
yeah,
It's like a good Mismagius team. Never thought I'd see it.
for the point
A lot of
value,
these pieces are
always.
really good. I think on the surface, I really believe in the team, and I think the Venomoth is not going to do much for the team, but I believe a lot in 1, 2, 3, and we'll even say 4 and 5 and 6. That is my surface level analysis. I think there's a lot of great tools, and I'm kind of surprised that they had a restriction here because this looks like a pretty good core up top.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
agree.
14 does seem like a lot to pay for Venomoth.
It's just got the shared weaknesses. Like it can do
Yeah.
things. It's just not here.
I mean, Shield Dust redirection is nice, right? Like you don't have to worry about a covert cloak on that. You can run it on the other mon if you feel like it. Maybe I'm just a Fake Out hater and I like to prep for it, but I feel like that's nice to have.
That is definitely a good thing for sure.
Yeah, I quite like this team. I think you have to respect both modes because you have like one of the best mons that goes slow in Hydrapple and Slowking, two of the top tier slow Pokemon on this board. And then you probably have one of the best high speed Pokemon on the board in Weavile. So it's really hard to kind of give both modes their respect at the same time. And I think Weavile has a role here as an attacker. It has a role as a supportive piece with Fake Out and Icy Wind. And there's a lot of merit to this Flygon being a bulky 100 speed mon that just kind of does a lot of things. I agree with Jordan. This is a pretty good team for Miss Mag. Berserker, once again, is being drafted for its Fake Out, not necessarily for its Steely Spirit, which is sad to see, but understandable. And I think it's going to be fine. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think this team's solid with the one redundancy that's apparent being Grumpig. Probably a little overpriced for Venomoth, but I see the vision. I like it.
If I remember it, because I think Keith talked about it, the Grumpig was the fastest screen setter in the tier. so it was
Yes.
meant to be a screen setter. This was in the video Electric put out. But the one majors may be too strong, but the one pretty big concern I have is you have 4 weaknesses to ice, and ice is, as we mentioned before, more prevalent in this format. And your ice resists are Weavile, which is like technically an ice resist, but it just takes out the sash. Berserker, which is good, like that's solid. And then you have Grumpig, which, like we've already said, is redundant. It shouldn't come to most games. And then Lantern, which is Lantern, which is bad. So it shouldn't come to most games. So like you have 2 4x weaknesses, and like maybe 1 real resistance to ice, which scares me a good amount.
Yeah, and you also don't really have much that's like scaring off the ice types from just coming anyway, right? I mean, you've got Berserker, but that's put a lot of weight on Berserker's shoulders. And you've kind of, like, I guess Girder is there as well, but again, like, that's a 6-point mon. Like, that can't be your plan all the time.
Keith has to play on their terms because they can't let the opponent play on their terms, which is clicking the ice move. Like, luckily, Weavile is a very good mon at establishing early momentum, early control. Mismag helps, Flygon helps with a lot of support. So if they play their game, they're very strong. And if they let their opponent hit them, their opponent has really great ways to hit them.
And Terra is going to be really important, like Terra usage,
Ruth.
Which is
always the case, but some teams really will take a lot of advantage of it, and maybe that's a good thing in Gen 9 Draft League, is you want to be able to flip the switch. You know what's coming, and you can flip the switch more easily.
Yeah, you can only do it once, though. So one of Flygon Hydrapple is going to be upsetty spaghetti about that ice move.
Upsetty spaghetti.
Where do we think this falls relative to some of the other teams we looked at last video?
High B for me.
I think it's solid.
I would agree.
I think so.
I think Weavile does a lot for the fast mode because neither of the Electrodes or Barraskewda were drafted in this conference, so Jolteon is the only one that outspeeds it. So I think it's got a lot of options, both fast and slow. I think it's probably high B, maybe even low A.
I've got it low A. I really like this team.
Yeah.
Better than most teams we've rated tonight. I'm just being a Debbie Downer on some of these teams. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that I think it's better than most teams we've talked about tonight, but I also think it's probably only fine to pretty good, which I think probably means I'm not doing a great job of adjusting my relative values to this format, but it is what it is.
It's going to be a fun season, I think, for all involved as we try to figure it out.
Absolutely.
Right. So, moving on, we've got the Pancham Pianists. Boom! Firefalls made a splash last season, entering the league as a new VGC player. I believe made it to like the quarter semifinals. I forget, but quite a run.
0-3 to 4-3.
Yeah, they're taking a new stab at it with a new team. What's going on here?
So Firefalls last season did not have, I believe, a fire, water, or grass, or maybe didn't have a fire or water. Some really weird type thing. And now in the season where nobody has a fire, they have a fire and managed to get the fire, water, grass core, which I just think is funny. But they have obviously the good prankster in Grafai, which can set up weather for Charizard with solar power, or Rain Dance if you want to run it with Inteleon, sorry. Strong fake out mode, strong fake out to help set up with Hitmonlee, and then potential. I think Cyclozar gets Dragon Shear for Inteleon as well, which is interesting. Yeah. The big concern for me is the Trick Room mode. Porygon is the Trick Room setter, and you have Magnezone, and Magnezone can function in a Tailwind. As well, because it's not that slow, but then you look at the Tailwind mode and it's Cutie Fly. So speed control is a problem for this team.
We got the Grafai and the Hitmonlee with the Emburden and the Inteleon. Seems really, really explosive on that front.
It's
Sorry to butt in
explosive.
there.
Yeah, no, it's explosive, but I just think. I mean, how are you getting off Unburden? Is it just swagger?
Normal
You
gem
swagger,
fake out, baby.
Yeah, white herb close combat. I mean, just whatever Grafia has got. And, like, you set the sun, you set the rain, this team really explodes on you. It seems pretty scary. Like, speed's not, like, very relevant when you're dead.
It's also a team with multiple Pokemon, like, two 120 and higher Pokemon plus a Prankster Pokemon is also a pretty nice, like, respectable way to say this is a fast team. So, but your point generally is a reasonable one, right? Which is that if that is insufficient, or if that is, being overvalued by us, the solutions to those speed problems that then arise are not great, right? Porygon and Cutiefly being your two go slow, go fast Pokemon is not awesome. So
I think
Yeah, it's all about the item games, right? Because if you cloak the Icy Winds and the Mud Shots and the Scary Faces, then you beat a lot of their speed control options. This is why Tailwind and Trick Room and Screens are king, because they can't be blocked by these newfangled Gen 9 items. So that is definitely a concern. We've got all the tools, but Gen 9 is making it very tricky, definitely in Draft League, to use some of these tools. Inteleon does have dual screens, though. I will give that credit.
I think I'd be more okay with it, weirdly enough, if Magnezone wasn't here. Because I feel like Magnezone often wants to be in Trick Room when you can control it. Because obviously, as a 4x weakness, it can get exploded. Even though it's kind of bulky.
Dirty.
Yeah, but then it can get hit twice. I mean, and if it's not in Trick Room or Tailwind, I don't have a lot of faith in it doing a ton. I like the rest of the super explosive options, so I'm not saying it's a bad team. I'm just confused by Magnezone's existence, because it's in a standard format. I think I'd be okay with it being here as a deterrent to Trick Room, but because we have so many slower mons and so many more Trick Room modes that are threatening, because naturally there are more slow Pokemon on a lower tier board, percentage wise, I'm less okay with a 60 speed mon being your Trick Room response, because then I think you almost have to set it up with an Iron Ball beforehand, which is reading a lot into a match. And if they don't bring their Trick Room mode, or if they just don't bring it to that game, then you have an Iron Ball Magnezone, which is not what you want.
I don't think the Magnezone
Well, I think you're incredibly
necessarily
intelligent, incredibly logical, and a great player of Pokemon, and I think that is deterring you from understanding Magnezone's role is to stab you with its stab moves.
I think it's also just a steel type.
Yeah, I
for this
think
team.
I think the real Trick Room mon here is Lurantis rather than Magnezone, right? Isn't Lurantis kind of big here?
Superpower / Leaf Storm, whatever you want, or Terrestrial. Yeah, you could go any of those routes if you want to.
Oh yeah, Terrestrial. Does that actually work with Contrary?
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Oh. I know. I mean, that seems like the sort of thing that they'd be like, no, that's not going to work.
Mean, but that's Draft League for you.
Yeah, I think this is a team
Big fan of the team. I'm clearly a bigger fan than some of the other folks, and that's reasonable.
I like
They're
it.
very reasonable concerns, but I'm a huge fan at high A tier.
I think this is a great team. I think the Inteleon is going to do a ton of work in this format. I really believe in this mon as not only one of the fastest things, but as one of the hardest hitting special attackers in the format. It has access to support tools like Haze, Screens, Icy Wind, but the heart and soul of this team is going to come down to, can Firefalls get value out of these lower tier picks? They've got something cooking here with the Lurantis, Porygon, the Cutiefly even coming. I think these lower tier mons do enough of an impact where they have enough, where it justifies their place on this team. We have a Charizard here that's 17 points without a great way to set Sun.
Grafia.
Oh yeah.
Grafia.
What am I talking about? What am I talking about? We have a Sun mode. Woo! Love it. Awesome. Yeah, no, I like this team.
Inteleon Weatherball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do agree to an extent with you, Purple, that the back 28 points of those last 5 picks could probably have been spent differently, and this team could have looked very different and quite possibly much better if those points had been distributed a little bit differently. But I think it's a pretty good team overall.
Yeah, I think I was harping too much on the problems I have with the team.
Yeah.
Because it is still, by all accounts, I think, a very good team. Like, it is an A tier for me.
Yeah.
And I have all of these speed control problems with it. But it's still very good. Like, the explosiveness on turn 1 is, like, astonishing. Like, it will break teams instantly, I feel like, a lot of the time.
I really appreciate you being a good counterweight, Purple. Devil's advocate's important. I just joined some team's team. I'm on this team.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this at the bottom of A for now. Might slide it to top of B depending on how this shapes out. But I really like what Firefall's cooked this season. I
like the team, but I don't know. I think it's a C tier for me. I think it's got a lot of problems. I think, I don't know. I believe in them. I'm not sure how I feel about the team. I feel like it leans on Grafai too much when you can just like Terra Dark. Sorry. And I guess if you lead Hitmonlee, then you can close combat it. But I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be very predictable, and so you know the modes that you have to prep for, and if you prep for them well, I feel like you can just shut the team down.
I would say as a lover of Prankster myself, I have never had an issue with Terra Darks, really. So much of what I think Prankster is valuable for in VGC do not require targeting your opponent in the first place.
Yeah.
I think the problem is,
unfortunately, doesn't have like Tailwind.
I think Grafai does.
Grafai's doing a lot of like parting shot, like stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it has to target a lot of the time, which is the main problem I have with it.
That's
well, maybe Grafai is just a bad prankster.
Well, in this format, I think I do agree that Prankster is good. And this team will do well. I don't think I can rank it high.
That's fair.
Personally. But I think it could be ranked high.
All right. Well,
who's next?
It's me.
I'm Knucklehead.
Ooh, I gotta get the notes out. Yippee! All right, when I first glanced at this team, I was like, I don't know what this thing is doing. But then, because I took a couple notes, I started writing some stuff down. This team feels very well balanced, and I think, which I know is such like a generic thing to say, but I feel like a lot of teams don't necessarily feel well balanced across the board. One of the things that I really like about this team is that Pachirisu can redirect moves for Blastoise. That's like a whole mode just by itself. One of the two. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
And every single other mon on the team.
Yeah, well, yeah. I was mostly centering on Volt Absorb specifically for a water type where you were nullifying half of its weaknesses because it only has 2. But like Shell Smash, it can just go crazy, which maybe I have too much faith in that as like a sweeping, mode. But I feel like having the ability to do that is always nice. You can always fake out with Blastoise, and Pachirisu can like nuzzle something. There's like a lot of mix-ups you can do just between the two of them. You're going to have a lot of Terra Grasses coming to this team to deal, or I guess Safety Goggles, but I feel like Terra Grass is more prevalent because Safety Goggles is kind of like a big item slot that you don't necessarily want to use to cover for Spore on Breloom, but like then you have Frostlass, who's the fastest mon on the team with ice moves. So it's like, do you really want to Terra Grass if it's like Frostlass Breloom lead? Maybe, I guess. Depends on what like the base type is, but I feel like that coverage is pretty nice for itself. And Breloom doesn't even have to Spore, it could just attack you with Technician plus 130 attack stat. So like that's something that they have to consider as well. This team just feels like it has a lot of just general good stuff. I don't really know about Carbink personally. If I have to harp on something, Carbink, Dragonair, I don't know. But I feel like the rest of the team feels pretty good. Just between Pachirisu supporting, Blastoise can fake stuff out, so you don't necessarily have to even bring Pachirisu or lead it. But like Breloom does huge damage, Blastoise can deal huge damage or also be a support piece. Camerupt can sweep and Trick Room. Frostlass is a good fast mode. Doesn't have to think about fake out. I think Braviary Hisui has a sweet. Hopefully I'm not dishing out some secret tech here. But Braviary, like you could Ice Shard with Frostlass into Braviary for weakness policy, and then Esper Wing everything with Tinted Lens to death. It's like holy moly, there's so many different like fun little modes you could do with this team. So I don't know what you guys are gonna rank this team. I feel like it could do really well. I like a lot of the modes. It's got a lot of stuff that you have to prep for, and I think it's good.
That was a very good intro, Goose. Let me echo everything Goose said and then put it in an elevator and then send that elevator to the frickin' moon. This team is incredible. This team has got so much power. The Breloom, the Blastoise has got all the moves that you could possibly want. It might not be the kill leader, but this mon is going to be incredibly valuable for the team. This is how you VGC Draft League. This team had, look at these move pools. These move pools are off the chain. When you add Eviolite to some of these mons, they become really bulky, and that is a trend through this team. I can see the value and the use cases for a lot of these teams. I think a lot of research went into this team. Straight up to the moon for me. No one wants to go after that. I get passionate. Sorry, folks.
I'm a bit cooler on this team. And I think it has a lot to do with Braviary Hisui, and I won't go into it again, but I dislike that Pokemon. Yeah, I dislike that Pokemon a lot. And I also dislike it as being the I dislike it as being the Tailwind setter, especially. Because it's 65 speed, so you aren't able to set Tailwind or match Tailwind consistently, I feel like. It's good, so you'll bring it a lot, and it's bulky, so it might survive. But I don't love it as the Tailwind setter on the team. And then you also have the problem of Trick Room, like with the other team. I think it's better than the team we just looked at. But you have two relatively low tier Pokemon to set Trick Room, and you don't have a good Trick Room mode on the team with camera.
They're low tier because they're underpriced. Have you looked at Hattrum's bulk? It's absolutely redonkulous.
Yeah. Hatchroom should probably not have been 3 points. But that being said, I still don't
but
love
maybe
it.
we're talking about like 4 or 5. It's not like
it's not 9.
It's fantastic. It's a legitimately fantastic Pokemon. Guys, come on. It's crazy. It's so good.
Hatchroom is really good.
Yeah.
Covert Cloak can't be taunted, can't be faked out. You have to kill it. It's like, all right, good luck. I don't know. There's a lot of or Eviolite too. I mean, I do agree though. Like Braviary, that's the con that I wrote down was like, Trick Room. What do you do outside Camerupt and Hatchroom? Oh no! It's like you prevent it. I think is the goal, right? Or like I guess redirect it with Pachirisu and try to kill stuff and try to like make your way through it, or spore stuff to delay it. But outside like those options, I do think
outside of those 5 things you just listed.
Well, I mean,
what
yeah, well,
options do they
I
have?
like the team, so obviously like everything's gonna be kind of tinted in a little bit of a nicer light. But I do think like the Trick Room point or the Tailwind point from like Braviary is kind of like it's very true. Like 65 base speed for Tailwind is like you're getting that up after everybody else.
It's gone. Say
week.
It didn't exist. The team is still great with no Braviary at all.
Well,
it has
like
no
Braviary.
Tailwind then. Like it needs to be.
Cares?
I care.
Don't care about your Tailwind.
I absolutely.
Icy Wind's pretty good.
I absolutely care. Icy Wind, Frostlass is super important on this team, and I think it will be using Icy Wind a lot, which is good because that's probably the best way to use Frostlass. But I just look at like if you're running, if the opposing team uses Tailwind and you do like in Blastoise is this Shell Smash set, like or even let's ignore that, but you just have a lot of points built into these
good.
like. Yeah, you just have a lot of points built into these mid-speed tier Pokemon. Blastoise, Breloom, Braviary, they're all very close to each other speed-wise, and they're all, in that mid-speed tier. So I want to have consistent ways to control speed if I'm doing that, and I don't think this team has that. That being said, I don't disagree that this team is good. I just think that that's an issue big enough that it's worth like. I think it is actually a pretty significant issue for the team.
I agree. I'm with you, Purple. I originally wanted the regular Braviary, but then it got taken, and I didn't like Braviary Hisui at first, but I knew I wanted Tailwind, and I kind of took this thing, and then after I took it, I started realizing that it's not really a Tailwind setter, like at all. It's mostly like just an offensive Pokemon, and I'm a believer now that I've researched it. I think Tinted Lens is good, and I'm spending my whole season trying to prove you guys wrong about Braviary. I think it's going to be great. I love it. But yeah, no, you're right.
I've been praying. I thought when Purple had it, I was like, it's going to be Kill Leader, and I was so dead wrong, but I'm hoping it is now.
This is the time for it to shine. But yeah, you're right. Your flaws are totally valid, and I I agree. I do think I really wish I had a better Tailwind setter to enable like a Breloom to just get like a fast spore off. But I think I'm kind of hoping that having the redirection and the somewhat speed control mode in the Frostlass available is nice. I do think I think you guys are sleeping on Carbink a little bit. I think Iron Defense Body Press on this thing, and it sets its own speed control, is like really good. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping, but like 150 defenses. It's a fairy type, so it's immune to dragon. It's really only 4x weak to steel types, which it has sturdy.
No, that's a fair point. And you like clear body, so you're not dropping stats or anything. Like
it's actually like a legit mon, and I think it's gonna come like every week for me.
I'm a little worried when you say every week. Because at the end of the day, it is 8 points. But I do agree it's good. Like it's not a bad Pokemon. It has a lot going for it. Iron Defense Body Press, I think in this format, like it's good.
It will be good.
Factors.
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna come a lot, let's say.
I'm excited for that top 3 mode of fast spore plus immediate physical offense, and then set up offense or fake out plus like just reliable damage next to that Pachirisu. I'm a Blastoise plus redirection fan from way back. I used to run Mega Blastoise with next to Pachirisu sometimes, or next to Raichu, what Mega Blastoise was Gen 6, right? Was Mega Blastoise not till Gen 7? I don't remember. Long time ago, right? I've been playing this game for a long time. And I mean, this isn't quite that, but it's not that far off from that either, given the context of a low tier draft. Like Blastoise is kind of getting some of that Mega Blastoise juice back relative to what's available. So
all right, well, where are we thinking about placing this team? I'm gonna try to average out what you guys think. What do you guys think?
It's an A tier for me, but I'm trying to figure out where. I'm looking back at the other teams.
Yeah, I think it's an A tier team for me. I think it's pretty comparable to the Pancham Pianists. I think maybe I like your team a little bit better personally, but I think it's probably 6 of one, half a dozen of the other for me on those 2 teams specifically.
Easy top 2 for me. Camerupt, when it rocks the weekly heat, James, I want you to never forget Camerupt's name again. It's going to erupt on you, and then you're going to be like...
You got that anchor point with the Frostlass, that's true.
It's a mid B tier team for me. I'm a bit lower. That being said, it might be the best Breloom team I've seen in quite a while, maybe ever. I think Pachirisu is great for Breloom, and also having a really high tier fake out next to a potential spore is good, and also not a ton of users of Sash, which Breloom will want a lot.
All right. Yeah. Moving on, we've got the Tropicana Tropius.
Tropicana Tropius. So Pardus had second overall pick, right? Keith took Hydropple first, which I think is a totally defensible first pick. And then this Rubombi went second, which I think probably should have been the first pick. I think Rubombi is probably the best mod on this board.
Pour one out for Rubombi, everybody. Everybody want a Rubombi.
Yeah, well...
Yeah, Rubombi's good.
Only Pardus could have it. And whoever got it in the other draft, I don't remember.
My draft plan was Rubombi and then Gorlurk in round 3. What a fairy ground combo right there.
Yeah.
No other notes. Let's ignore the other 9 mons. That's a really great start.
Love this. Well, let's not ignore the other 9 mons because I have things to say about them as well. But I do like this too here, right? There's not a lot of good grounds. Golurk is, in context, Golurk is one. Rubombi is
Golurk is a Pokemon, which making it one of the best ground types in the format.
Rubombi makes a fine ground type great by letting it go first, right? I think maybe this type chart is kind of hiding what might be a little bit of a ground type problem. So the ground weaknesses of Houndoom, Magneton, and Dragalge are also basically the entirety of its special offense. So you can kind of just, I mean, that's obviously it's always reductive, and it's a complicated game, and there's lots of decisions to be made, but it doesn't really have a great way to deal with ground types, and its resistances aren't really doing much more than like stalling against ground types, right?
Rabambi's probably still getting two-shot by like a strong earthquake. So.
Yeah, exactly. So there's, something maybe going on with that. Speaking of Pokemon that don't feel like Pokemon-ass Pokemon, Rabsca is one. That's like a perfect example of one that does not qualify as a Pokemon-ass Pokemon.
It's so great, and it's gonna be so great, but like it's been waiting for that moment this entire generation. It's definitely like it is forever overshadowed as a Pokemon, but I hope that we never forget its name after it is somehow finally amazing.
We do have a pretty good coaching Mon here. We can get this Golurk doing some nasty stuff with coaching. I think Ambipom as well, definitely. Like I don't think I want to take a +1 Silk Scarf double hit from Ambipom with very many Pokemon. It's gonna be, I mean, it's breaking
coaching.
sashes.
Go to town.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, that's where the +1's coming from. Mm-hmm. But that's going to be scary. But I also think the defensive boost on coaching, like having a fast coaching Mon, is going to be nice when there just aren't that many special attackers you have to worry about as much. You can a little more reliably spend that time setting up defenses as well, which will be nice. There is overall not great defenses, right? We've got these two over 100 special defenses, which we've talked about a little bit. Being special defensively bulky is not as important. It's nice if you can get it, but people are more often going to be pointing their strongest attacks are going to be physical attacks, and the physical is rough here, right? 60, 75, 66, 50. I mean, 95 is nice, but there's lots of low numbers here. Impidimp is dragging the average down a little bit because it's basically just gonna die. It's holding a sash and then is gonna die on the second hit. But the defenses are not great here overall. There's some rough.
Understated, James. They're terrible. The type chart is terrible. But this team, you nailed it with the ground weakness. If people get to hit this team, they win, right? The team is trying to live one hit behind a screen. That's its goal. The entire goal of a lot of these teams, but especially this team, is to play their game, hit their moves, and hope that you can't resist them, hope that they don't run into nasty surprises with Terra, because when they play their game, they're strong, they're fast, they've got options, but when they get hit, they die. And that's when you compound the low stats with the common weaknesses, that's what happens. I think this team has the tools to win games, but if it doesn't win the game, it loses the game. And I hope that that's not like an obvious statement. I hope that if you see behind, it needs to affirmatively decide how the game is played. Otherwise, it loses. But that said, I think you can easily get 4 wins and make it into playoffs with this kind of team.
Yeah, I like it. I like the offensive output that you get from this team. Like, I think the Houndoom is really good value. I think the Dragalge is going to do a lot of work. The Golurk. I think even Rabambi is like a little slept on offensively. I think it clicks its Tailwind or its Screen, and then it starts Moonblasting, and it's pretty good. Moonblast is a great move, high BP, 95 special attacks, nothing to fear. Or no, sorry, it is something to fear. Rabsca is also offensive, I think, 115 special attack, and it's pretty bulky, honestly. But I think the weaknesses have been stated, that this team's going to struggle to survive hits a lot of the time if it's not being able to go first. Luckily, I do think Rabambi, the fact that this is a Rabambi team is good. I like that we have a couple abusers of Tailwind. I wish we had a couple more. We have like Magneton, Houndoom likes it. Obviously, all these fast things like it. And then Golur can use it, but it's like not ideal. Like I wish you had like a couple more mons in that 65 to 85 tier to take advantage of that Tailwind. But overall, I think it's a good team that's going to get outsped sometimes and die because of it.
I do wish there was a better water type on this team. I think that would go a long way towards shoring up some of this ground type weakness that we've been talking about. Water is just great generally. Like it's kind of a type you never want to shirk on if you can avoid it in a draft league. And I really don't think Croconaw counts like as a Pokemon, let alone as a water type reliable bring it 5 weeks type Pokemon.
It seems usable,
What
honestly.
about sheer force? What?
Yeah. And no EV-like competition, or very little, so that's if Croconaw surprises us, the team all of a sudden gets a lot better. They lose that
attack. Sheer force is not bad.
It has to like
do some work.
It would love a good water type.
It has to really surprise us though. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. I am really low on Croconaw.
Surprise.
Croconaw is a 1-pointer in a low tier league. Like I'm not saying it's
Well, that's because it was mistiered, right? Not because it's. Are you saying it deserves to be a 1-pointer in a low tier league?
Maybe
I'm saying it has to prove it doesn't deserve to be a 1-pointer.
Yeah,
That's
like,
a fair stance, yeah.
Like, what's its high end? Is its high end a 10? Like, because I think this 10.
Well, its high end's like a 7.
I don't believe in Croconaw being.
Well,
more
it's
like
the
a
sheer
3 to
force
5.
liquidation, right? That's what you gotta do. Dragon Dance.
But now you're running Life Orb on your 1-pointer instead
You don't
of
need
your
to run
Dragon
Life
Orb.
Orb. Why do you need to run Life Orb?
You don't have to, but
I know you don't have to, but you're leaving damage on the table.
Yeah.
But
you would for the EV.
I can tell people what I'm gonna bring, which is Liquidation, Dragon Dance, Ice Punch, Protect, and it's gonna beat you anyway. It's a good Pokemon.
For 1 point, I think it can do some stuff. I think it'll have at least one good week. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I believe.
I agree. One good week, maybe 2.
Maybe 2.
I don't agree.
Maybe 4.
Like
Maybe
5.
4. You never know.
I don't agree more than 2.
yeah,
Like,
I would be
and I
Maybe not.
surprised
Maybe
if
not.
it-
No.
I would be
The point
surprised
is
if it
very
comes-
reasonable, but I was just being a Croconaw stan. I think we all end up in varying different ways to get to the middle for this team. But 1 point as to not power rankings. This is how you play Pokemon. I complained earlier about a team that didn't embrace extremes. This team has embraced extremes. I think that much we can all agree, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
The defensive pieces on this team are Hawlucha coaching something and Ribombi clicking Struggle Bug, and or like Impidimp screens. So, which are good options, like if you really need to tank it and dish Pinocchio back,
Love it.
So I think it has options. I think it will just need to use them effectively to take wins.
I think maybe I'm a little higher on this team than you guys. I'm thinking this is like a high B tier for me.
Yeah, I've got it right between Purple and Heaven in B tier, so like dead middle of B tier.
Yeah, I've got it in a similar spot.
It's low B tier for me, but I mean it's not bad. It's just
I do think Ambipom is going to be a monster on this team.
Yeah.
There just aren't ghost types around. Like there just aren't that many.
Yeah.
And
you have to spend a resource to do it.
It's 100 attack stat with Technician. For whatever reason, this is the draft doc or this thing is wrong. It's not pickup anymore. It is Technician. So Technician skill link or Technician double hit.
Triple Axle,
Silk
baby.
Scarf.
Wow. That's
It gets triple axle again, right? So I do think Ambipom is going to be good on this team, and being just a little bit slower than Hawlucha is kind of perfect for it. So watch out for the monkey with 2 tails.
Watch out.
It's going to be
monkey.
good.
Big damage.
All right, moving on to the Toronto Maple Leavannys. We've got a top-heavy draft.
Right.
JDB, does it work in low tier?
It is a top-heavy draft, right? This is basically a like 6-mon team with a tech piece here and there, and I don't really see when a lot of its tech pieces want to come, right? This is mostly a top 6 team that Lycanroc Midnight is going to come sometimes. Maybe Pineco wants to show up, I guess, maybe, right? Like it's the highest, it is its highest defensive stat is Pineco.
Wow.
Oh yeah, the defenses are like we've talked about frailty and paper thin.
Wow,
stuff
this
like
is
that.
a really
This is a frail team. There's one defensive stat above 100, and only 2 above 85, like higher than 85, right?
Holy
Yeah.
moly.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very frail team. It's very, very top heavy, and two grass types in your top heavy team. Although you could do worse than Thwackey and Trevenant, right? They both get Grassy Glide. They're both respectable Pokemon that fill very different niches. There aren't a lot of fire types around. There are ice types around, which is a problem. I love Tinkaton as a way to start off a draft on this board. Super good. Vivillon is also super good, right? It's a solid redirector, compound eyes, sleep powder. Like it's doing good stuff, and it's doing that good stuff pretty well. Typhlosion is the best fire type on the board, and it's going to be a problem for teams, right? How do I deal with Choice Scarf Eruption or Choice Band Eruption, or not Choice Band, Choice Specs Eruption, next to Fake Out, or next to Redirection, or next to other Fake Out, and then a huge Steel type attack the next turn. Like, Typhlosion is super good, and it's going to be good on this board, especially because nobody else has fire types, right? But this top 6 here overall has a fire type problem. You've got a resist and an immunity, but nobody else wants to be taking any fire types, fire attacks. And it's mostly a 6-mon team, so like, bring your Terra Fires, and you got something going on there.
And your heat wave.
Massive
that
Terrifier
is true.
problem, for sure.
Yeah, what else I
Click a
got on
button
my
that
note
causes
list here?
Crawdon to die, and then you win.
Yeah, it's gonna just have to be, Fake Out something, kill something with adaptability Crawdon, or like Specs Eruption Typhlosion, and then figure it out from there basically every week. Tux is gonna have to play like Find the Choice Scarf constantly, because you put a scarf on something that you're not expecting, that Tux isn't expecting to outspeed, and it can just run through the team, right? So it's a team with strong options, but very exploitable weaknesses. And this is, and I cannot stress this enough, such a frail team. It's so frail. Like,
While agreeing with James' hypothesis of a 6-mon team, I will nominate Zebstrika for the 7th mon.
Okay,
as the speedy
so that is
That's the main thing. It's got to overperform in this team.
The other thing.
Start making sense.
I am a Zebstrika believer.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is a team that Zebstrika is going to prove me right on.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Like, a lot of what Zebstrika is bringing is its fast speed and its immunity ability. It's different potential immunities, and nothing cares about electric or grass attacks on this whole squad. Like, why? What would Zebstrika even be protecting? Like, when are you going to switch it in?
That's just the niche, though. I mean,
Lightning
it's
Rod,
clicking
the
buttons,
electric move
right?
from Vivillon, and then you Rage Powder with the Vivillon, and then Zebstrika attacks while you're redirecting the electric moves while it's Rage Powdering the other moves.
Click
Does
buttons.
that make sense?
I would love that.
You click a high horsepower. You click Electro Web. You click Screen. And then Vivillon passes the scarf with Quiver Dance. Like the team's got to play on its own terms because it literally cannot deal with Terrifier. Like that's the problem, is wanting to play on your own terms, is that there's a ready-made answer. But like, yeah, the team's got to figure out, like, it's got to use Terra effectively. It's got to Terra Water Blast. Like it's got to play its own game, and it's got to find a way to do so.
This team I agree, it absolutely has to play its own game. But I have two notes initially, which is that I actually think Lycanroc is maybe the bigger deal in the like low point tiers, just because it's a way to answer fire types like offensively.
Yeah,
it can do something into them, especially if you because you have to play your game anyways. If you have the speed control with Vivillon, you're
It's
going
also the
to be
second
able.
highest attack stat on the whole squad.
Yeah, you're going to be able to click Rock Slide or some rock move and at the very least, like, make a fire type Terra into something else, which then maybe your other team can deal with. So I quite like Lycanroc Midnight on this team. That being said, I don't know what Thwacky's doing here, really. Like, I think I would want a team that's taking advantage of grassy terrain more if I was going to draft Thwacky, especially as a second draft type, grass type, in a team that's this shallow in terms of like the amount of Pokemon and in a team that's this top heavy.
Yeah.
Especially when you already have like an amazing fake out in Tinkaton. Like I don't get the Thwacky here, but the rest of the team I can kind of buy. I just like. I would love to see something else there.
They could widen the team by liquidating a Thwacky or potentially some of the other pieces, and I think that's what stops this team from being great, is missing one or two dimensions, and that is a big deal in a team full of a league full of great drafters.
Yeah, and I think you pinpointed the spot where I would make a change is I think you can cut the Thwacky, right? Like you have you got it. You have the fake out already. And while the Grassy Glide mode is nice with the Trevenant, I guess, Trevenant wants to be doing other things, and you don't really need it. Like, I feel like that's 14 points you could spread out. But how do we rank this top-tier team among other options in this conference?
I will say Drifblim is still on the board for this conference.
Wow.
So you could pick up
That'd be interesting.
Drifblim
Instead
if
of
you
like
want to like.
Trevenant, maybe.
Yeah.
It's semi-redundant. Yeah,
And then you-
Drifblim's like 17.
Gives you a
I think?
Trick Room setters, keep the ghost typing. You lose Frisk, but you gain Unburdened stuff. Could be good.
Yeah.
But where are you cutting?
Interesting.
Where are you cutting?
Trevenant, and then you're also liquidating Thwacky. So if you
Yeah.
cut Thwacky and Trevenant, then Drifblim is a big piece of what you're getting. I think,
Yeah.
that-
But you
I think
need-
you're
you
definitely
need-
onto something.
You need Thwacky to have Drifblim be that good, right? Because of
Be a
Unburdened?
fast Pokemon.
Yeah, just drop the Grookey. It'll be fine. It'll be
Hey,
fine.
well, Drifblim's
I just-
also 18 points, so take that
okay.
with a grain of salt.
Yeah, so you need to make up
Okay,
like
yeah, it'll
7
be tricky.
points.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of points.
Yeah, I think you can do it. I don't think it's impossible. You can probably find another water. type
Probably
that's
swap
Pokemon.
Pavilion from 19. Although maybe that's
Yeah,
a
no,
big
it's
part
the
of the
problem
idea.
is 3 of these Pokemon could just be Drifblim. Like, you could smash them together and form Drifblim, but that's ultimately not the team we're looking at.
Yeah.
That's
hard
true. That's true. That's true.
I don't know how to tier this one.
I don't
think-
know either. I'm kind of
it's like-
lost. And if I'm
It's a
lost,
top
I usually
of-
just rank a B tier.
I'm gonna put it at the top of
C.
C.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I got it.
100% agree.
That's
It's like it's got interesting modes, and I think it could be very surprising. Just because I'm always surprised by top heavy teams every season, even though they always do well.
I think they're good when they're synergistic, and I'm just not entirely convinced that these 6 or 7, if you count Substrika, are necessarily the perfect fit. But we'll see. Tux, you had a great comeback last season. Let's see if we can carry that momentum and show off with this team.
And if I remember correctly, the big comeback came after a big roster change.
Yeah, so maybe we'll see this team look
Right?
different by midseason.
That's true. Yeah.
All right, moving on. We've got a new coach to the VBL-S. Welcome, Spinnerack. Now, I have some things to talk about here. I love these first 3 and 4 picks. I really do. I think Duraludon's the best Pokemon on this draft board. I think it's literally, that might be a hot take. That might be a hot take. I think it's so damn good. And maybe the fact that you have to run an Eviolite is limiting to it, but you don't. You could run Specs, you could run Life Orb, you could run Assault. Well, you wouldn't run Assault Vest. You could run.
Well, you wouldn't run Assault
Yeah,
Vest,
you wouldn't
but-
run Assault Vest. But you get my point. There's other items you could run here, right? But I really like the idea of putting the Duraludon beside an elite screen setter, because I think a lot of teams are going to struggle to remove a Mon that is only weak to ground and fighting and has effective base stat totals that are off the charts when you factor in the Eviolite. This format leans physical, and you have a Duraludon that's at 115 defense, 98 or 70 HP. Add in the Eviolite. It's so damn hard to remove this thing, especially behind a reflector light screen. So I really like the Morgrem pairing, although you could argue there might be a little Eviolite competition between the two. I think you're more than fine running maybe like a Sash on Morgrem sometimes. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think Sash is more Morgrem speed, but
yeah.
Let's give Tsukaba infinite benefit of the doubt. Duraludon, god of the format, unbelievably amazing.
But
now Tsukaba, and amazing support for it. Tsukaba, I need you to look at the rest of the team now.
I'm getting there. That's where I'm going to right now. So that I'm trying to give this team. I love the top four. I'm giving the flowers where it's due over there. However, this back half makes me very upset. I'm upset right now because there's so much. You have these two Mons up top that really love the Eviolite, and then you have a bunch of low tiers that I feel like have no value. Like, I don't know. I'm really not seeing where these points came in. Like, you spent 9 and 6 on the Gothita and the Poltergeist, but like I'm not feeling their impact here. Maybe I'm just lower on these Pokemon. Like, Gothita is historically very good, right? But I don't know. You guys got to help me out. Help me understand.
Yeah, sure,
we have 8
I feel like-
NFEs.
Yeah. I feel like I'm one of the biggest trapping fans. I'm probably one of the biggest trapping fans in the server. I've done it twice now, and I've only been here like 5 seasons. And I don't understand Gothita at all on this team. Because generally if you have trapping, you want two things, but at least one of them. A super strong offensive threat, or you want and you want Perish Song, because those are both two good modes. And I feel like the benefits of Duraludon, I guess just Duraludon, but like it's a big part of the team, is that it's like a huge threat that will stay on the field a long time, which is not what I want Gothita for if it's going to tank a lot of hits. Duraludon, and then you have and you don't have a Perish mode at all. Except for, I guess, Drifloon, if you really want to stretch the idea of a Perish Trap mode. Wait, no, it doesn't get the Perish Trap, does it? Perish Song does it. So you have
definitely don't know Drifloon's.
Even if it does, it's not good because you could
Yeah,
just
if it does or not.
But the
Here's
point
the
is
thing,
just like I don't like it. Yeah.
This is a good. I think I will make a meta point. Like, why are we here? Most people in their first season in the VBL don't do well, me included, and I think almost everyone on this call. And I think that is likely to be the case here. But most people, Spinnerack, I hope to get to know you as a person, and most people who stick around their second, third, fourth season not only have a great time, but also become very good players. And like, I like some of these pieces, and then you figure out all the detailing as you get more into the VBL, and then you will be a great player, and then you will have a great team. You don't currently have a great team, so it'll be at the bottom for me, but I think you can be spicy. So as you see the tech and as you use the tech that I'm sure is in your brain, you'll be able to surprise us.
And you don't have to wait a full season to make it happen. Like, if you
that's true,
realize
yeah.
something's wrong with your team, you can make transactions, and you can talk to people if you feel like you're struggling with what to change, because people are going to help you in the VBL.
Yeah.
True.
And one of the things that I think is important is, like, I harped on Gothita, and we're harping on these low tiers, but generally the largest point Pokemon are the ones that matter. And I think the first two at least, or the first three at least, are good fits for each other.
Absolutely.
So this team isn't. I don't think it's atrocious. I think that if you have a good first three that are all high points and make sense, like, this team will be able to win games. It's just it's not optimized.
I'm not even joking. Some teams will literally lose to Reflect plus Iron Defense Body Press on Duraludon. Like,
Light
they're
screen. Come on, light screen.
well, both. Just run both.
Duraludon really needs the light screen.
Yeah, it does. But some teams don't have a special attacker. Like, you have like one of them, and maybe it's like a flying type
I
that
feel like you
Palmon
just
can leave.
find a Pokemon that has
what? How do you break that?
just some neutral special attack, and you
Not behind a light screen. I'm telling you, this thing is so bulky, Duraludon. This is like, it's so interesting because you have like fundamentally probably the bulkiest Mon in this format when you factor in typing and Eviolite. But somehow the defenses on this team are 59 and 56 total. And then you look at the team and it's like, oh, I have a bunch of babies.
Well, it's like, it's Morgrim, Fletchinder, Poltergeist, Gothita, Zoro, Hisui, and Drifloon.
Sorry to take them away, but like ultimately you have to know that the 6 is always swapping 1 or 2 of the back 5 at most with what's here.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And like, is this a Fletchinder team? No. I don't
Not
think so.
really.
Not really.
Like,
There seems
I
to
feel
be
like this.
some repetitive pieces. Like you got a couple fake out mons, which is like always good, but I feel like you don't need both Palmot and Morgrim. I feel like you could drop Palmot for like Staraptor, and they're both the same point value. And Staraptor deals with the weaknesses that Duraludon has. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you could cut Fletchinder and get someone
Intimidate or like Reckless or whatever, and you can like, I don't know. There's like a few. The core concept of the team is, I think, what I'm struggling with, and I think there's pieces here that are good. I think they just need other pieces that fit well with them to make the team very threatening.
I think this team, what screams to me most about it after now having looked at it for a little bit, is it got caught in a trap that I think is pretty easy to make, especially if you're new to draft, which is like building around cores as like the idea of the team. Because it feels, I don't know, to me it feels like it might have been, oh, I've got a dragon steel fairy core, and now I've got my fire and Fletchinder, and there's a fire water grass core here as well. And I worry that might have been like the idea behind, and then you have later on you have the psychic dark fighting core. Like you have all these cores which are generally spoken about as good things to have, but the team doesn't function cohesively where like the fighting type would be doing its job and the psychic type is doing its job and the dark type is doing its job, or whichever of the, take any of those 3 cores that I mentioned as like, and each one is doing its job because each of these Pokemon want to do such separate things. That's where I might struggle with this team a lot.
Very astute point. Recommendation: click the Terra Electric Double Shock with Palmot. You'll have success.
Yeah. I think this team will win some games with some surprising power at the top end, but ultimately is going to struggle in the long term on the season. So I'm going to put it in D tier. But I appreciate the top end. I really do. I like it.
A roster mover too.
Yeah, I think a couple transactions.
Yeah. I like the direction
around.
this team is going. It's just it didn't round out correctly in my opinion.
I have it in bottom of, or like mid bottom of C. I don't think it's, I know this team has a lot of problems, but I just think that those first 3 are good enough together that they might, I think they'll cause enough problems that
they will. They certainly will.
This team can't be the worst to me.
Yeah, my next lowest team is Ryan's team, the Dublin Dundozas, and like I just think Ryan's top end is gonna be a little more reliable than Spinnerack's here. But like I take your point generally, right? Like this is a strong top end, and it's gonna win some games. Duraludon is very good, but
I mean
this whole back end, I don't know.
Yeah. I have it just above Ryan's, so it's not a big difference.
Yeah. All right, we've got one more team, and I don't think anyone signed up for this one, but
the unclaimed Jakarta Jolteons.
Yes.
Sorry, Red Jolteon.
I couldn't claim 5 teams, man. Come on, I only got so many times.
Yeah, Goose, you did your part. Who didn't do their part?
I mean, all of you did
that
your
was
part.
me. This guy double waters. That's what you got to do.
Triple water.
Draftables.
Is this a rain team? We got Jolteon, Ludicolo, Swampert.
Sure, why not? Yeah, I think reliability, these numbers, these scaling opportunities. This game is endlessly complicated, and we've all spent years playing it and trying different stuff. And I think this team has a ton of tools that we can all see different ones, and we can never name them all. I think we have to kind of think cohesively. There's some mons that I think you don't get the full value without investing in their synergies. I'm not sure how Articuno earns the top tier, but it will definitely hacks its way through some games. I think these pieces are really good, and it's up to the coach, who is a champion of this league, to fix that. Or to fix the fact that some of these mons like don't have an obvious game plan that they're supposed to go for, and then you just know that if I team build, if Ludicolo clicks the Leaf Storm, and sometimes Swampert clicks the Amnesia, and sometimes bulky mons get decorated, and sometimes I win fast mode with Jolteon. Like sometimes teams look incomprehensible in the power rankings, but that's just because they have a lot of tools, and then the coach is going to do great things with them. So it's like it's very difficult for us to summarize a team like this, but I think these are the kinds of teams that tend to win VGC Draft League.
And they're basically all blue.
What?
Yes, I think that is an important point.
Is that true? I don't think that's true.
Well, not
The
Ludicolo
vibes are
Jolteon,
good. I
but
think that's also a very important point, is that the vibes are good.
the vibes are good. Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Maybe
Right.
like half the team is blue. Like Alchemy, Jolteon, Ludicolo, Revavroom, Litten are not blue at all. What are we talking about?
Revavroom is blue.
How?
Litten
Where's
is
the blue? Show me the blue. I don't see it. Where is it?
It's
If
there.
you're colorblind,
It's the color of
purple's
their
blue.
aura.
Maybe if we believe that purple is the new blue.
Yeah, purple is blue.
Okay, fair enough.
And mostly black, bluish dark black is also blue.
Okay, well, we're still missing a couple mods there, but sure,
Okay.
I'll give it to you again.
Sure. Wow.
I'm sure Alchemy has a flavor that is blue.
Yeah, exactly.
That I
All
bet.
right, fair.
But no, I like this team. Like, I think it's an interesting team. It's got fun stuff going on. We'll just let a very loud truck drive by there.
We all heard.
It's got some stuff like Brion is probably not coming right. Like you have two better water types.
Yes.
But also it's a 2-point mod, right? Litten is fine-ish, but also it's a 3-point mod. Nose Pass, who cares? But it's
Hey,
a 1-point
Nose
mod.
Pass is nice. I like Nose Pass.
I'm gonna say Nose Pass, who cares? And just I'll be proven wrong, and that's fine. But
Yeah, we can ignore them and still think the team's great,
Yeah.
and then he
Yeah.
surprises us
you
with
know,
Nose Pass or Brion. It can happen.
I think the wild card here is how good is Alchemy and low tier. I feel like this mon is hard to place for me at 16 points. It's like, is Decorate really easier to get off in a
At
format like this?
64 speed?
Do you care? Maybe it's
With
better
Terra,
not because of
and
Decorate. Oh, yeah, that's fair. Terra. Is it better because it can be more offensive, given the lack of fairies? Like, is this just a Moonblaster and D-Gleamer
Okay.
a lot of the time? Or
If only it had Moonblast.
oh, it doesn't.
Yeah. It's a
Aroma
shame.
Veil's nice. Are you not getting value out of this mon if you're just clicking Dazzling Gleam? Because maybe it's. I'm assuming the fact that it's 16 is factoring in Decorate heavily, right?
Yeah. And the fairy typing. It's got a luring voice, which is fine. If Decorate pops off, Alchemy pops off, and that is the nature of Alchemy.
yeah, 5 distinct 4X weaknesses is kind of a
Yes.
bummer.
think
And
it's-
they're mostly in types that are good to be attacking with, right?
Yeah.
Ground type, ice type, rock type. There's lots of grass types around, and not really a great way to punish grass types.
this
I mean,
is
you
a-
got your Articuno
yeah.
here, but Articuno is fine offensively as a way to punish ground types, but not great. There's really not. I mean, how are we punishing ground? Well, I guess we do have the waters, so ground is kind
Trevor
of fine,
A. Vroom,
but
the gunk shot. It's got high horsepower. This is going to be a sleeper mod, I think, the Rever Vroom.
yeah, maybe it will be.
Great value, I think.
Revavroom's really gonna need to pull its weight though.
But I mean, it's something to notice. Like that's kind of a bummer a little bit looking at it.
I don't think
There's
it's
not a
just
lot of overlap in weaknesses. This is a generally pretty good type chart overall, excepting the lots of 4X's and issues with ground types, which is common, but also understandable because here's the best ground type anyway. So what's getting brought against it, right? I don't know what.
Terragrass. Yeah.
I think it's a really big deal though
Go
that the
with
top
the
two.
camera out.
Was that purple?
Yeah, I think it's a big deal that your top 2 Pokemon are Pokemon whose game plan is centered around bulking through stuff, in the case of Articuno, generally with Hail, which this team doesn't have good access to, maybe even access to at all.
Altaria gets Snowscape, baby.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Snow.
We are
I forgot it.
gaming.
So
Let's go!
So it's
And
gonna
then it
have
disables
trouble.
it immediately because you forgot
Yeah,
to
with
change its
Cloud
ability.
9.
You don't run Cloud9 if you're on Snowscape. Come on.
You do if you're drunk when you're building your
To
team.
make sure the blizzard destroys this Altaria. That's why it's okay.
Sorry, Purple. Continue.
No, yeah, of course, it's fine. But you have two mons whose general game plan is bulk through stuff, and then come out the other end and live. And they both have the problem of having a 4x weakness, which is like why they're in low tier. But you don't have a good way, I feel like, of stopping either of those from being good. Like, I like grass type generally into this team, I think, because it's good defensively into Swampert, Jolteon, and Ludicolo, which is a problem. And like it's great that you have Revavroom and Articuno to help deal with it, but like that doesn't negate the fact that 3 Pokemon who want to come a lot will have that problem of not being able to touch grass types well, unless you Terra them, which is true for every Pokemon. And so you so you end up with this problem where I'm really worried that this team will lose its game plan of trying to outbulk stuff because there will be a random Terra Rock Terra Blast or a random Rock Slide because every Pokemon in the world gets it, and then a Terra Grass move or Terra Grass Terra Blast or a random Energy Ball or a random Physical Grass move or whatever, because that will help deal with the 2 main bulk lords on this team, and then you're left with like some Pokemon you don't love.
Maybe there's something
Alchemy
to be
lost
said.
Mystical Fire, and it's so sad. It needs the Mystical Fire to protect this team.
Maybe there's something to be said though about the fact that you have 5 unique 4x weaknesses, where it's like, can you really cover them all with your general coverage? Maybe, maybe not, and maybe one of them that you spent a lot of time trying to cover isn't even a major player that week.
Yeah, but for the most part, you're also not getting punished by having that 4x, by targeting that 4x weakness, and then one of them doesn't come, right? Like if you've got the Malamar, Malamar is a 6-point Pokemon, and you're probably not like super prepping around it anyway. So let's say Revavroom, right? So you bring your Earth Power or your high horsepower coverage or whatever, and Revavroom doesn't come. Like that's still fine, right? I mean, you're gonna hit Jolteon with it. You're gonna do a decent job of, it's just a fine coverage move, neutral hit, or maybe that move doesn't get clicked. But you're not clicking most moves most weeks anyway. I mean, VGC games just aren't long enough for that. So
Fair.
It's probably fine a lot of the time, but yeah, I mean. I think 5. I don't know. I'm going to say a sentence, and then I'm going to second guess my sentence after I say it. I think 5 distinct 4x weaknesses is better than stacking up on 1. Definitely. But also, I could see making the opposite statement and also being happy with that. It's better to have a whole bunch that are all the same than 5 different ones. So I don't know.
Maybe I can alleviate your fears of those 5 4x weaknesses by taking care of 4 of them with the immense rain mode that this team has. I feel like Jolteon, who is the fastest mon in this division, can just click Rain Dance, and then you either click Hurricane or Water Move into any of the 4 of the 5 4x weaknesses and eliminate the threat immediately. How does that sound?
That's
honestly
a reasonable point. You play your game and you don't worry about the type chart because the rain boosted water moves go boom.
Yeah, or Hurricane. I feel like this team feels more like a rain mode than any other team I feel like I've seen so far, except for maybe your team, Jordan, which I wasn't, on the call for. But I don't know. This team has a lot of like options in rain that, between Altaria, as long as it's not Cloud9, Ludicolo, and Articuno can just click buttons in rain, and Jolteon can also just click thunder. So I feel like, or Swampert can click like liquidation or whatever physical water stab it wants, or special if it really wants to. But I feel like that's unlikely. I don't know. I think the rain mode of this team deals with 4 of the 5 4X weaknesses, and into the teams that you're worried about those weaknesses, aside from like a stray rock slide, I feel like you can prep for that. Click Rain Dance and then just go to town.
The rain mode is, I think, really important. That's a great point. But also, if you're using a rain mode, I don't love Jolteon being the rain setter, because oftentimes it will want to take advantage of the rain being up already and using thunder, like you said. But
I don't think who's a better rain setter.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I need to backtrack. Like the Terra Grass option is good against rain. We say it's good against half the team. It's also good against rain.
I don't think it's good against Articuno though. Articuno sweeps those fools.
Does it sweep them or does it chunk them?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Hurricane's a pretty strong move. I don't know. It depends on the grass type. Now I'm nitpicking.
All right. Well, I think it's time we tier this thing. What do you say, guys? Where do we see this team stacking up?
We could go back and forth on this team for a long time, I think.
Yeah.
That being said,
top E, low A, etc.
Yeah, I think
I feel pretty good about this
right
team.
around there as well. It's.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it high C. The one thing we didn't talk about, and I know we're going quick, but this team doesn't have a Trick Room functional mode. Like, it has a Trick Room living mode if Swampert can live through it, but it does not have a functional mode in Trick Room to like be sweeping through it at all, which concerns me in a format where Trick Room is so prevalent as a win condition.
Yeah,
that's a pretty fair point.
Yeah, it also doesn't have a ton of like, oh, you're gonna set up Trick Room on turn 1. Well, I don't really care about that. I'm just going to set up with something. Like, I guess we've got the Alchemy Decorate, but like, there's not a ton of. Well, I'm also going to take advantage of the fact that you're spending half of your time not damaging me, like not actually attacking, and become a problem for you. So
yeah. All right. Well, I think we're about done, my friends.
I think we completely butchered a lot of teams. Here we go.
Oh yeah, our opinions are almost universally wrong.
Can't wait for our opinions to be immediately invalidated week 1 as they were last year.
Yep.
But anyway, it was fun talking mods with you guys, and I hope the league enjoys the Draft League content at the end of Content Week. I'm really excited to get into these matches, start seeing some replays pop up. But thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys for a lot of content throughout the season, match logs, some playoff streams. It's going to be a blast. Low tier, baby. Woo!
Low tier.
VBL hype.
All right.